How do public schooling institutions compare to private ones in society's view and in reality? Raising awareness of perception versus reality in regards to disparities between private and public schooling institutions. Presentation by Signe and Vasilis. For the past weeks, my teammate Vasilis and I have been doing a pretty big global project. This is our team project, consisting of an explanation, an outcome, and an individual reflection. Our creative outcome for this project is the PowerPoint that we are now going to show you. The research question we asked for this project is, how do private schooling institutions compare to public ones in society's view and in reality? Our aim is to raise awareness of perception versus reality in regards to the disparities between public and private schooling institutions. Vasilis and I created a survey in this PowerPoint presentation to accomplish this goal. I will be presenting this while Vasilis takes care of technical things like recording and switching the slides. Sadly, due to our country going into a lockdown due to COVID-19, we've had to make some adjustments to our creative outcome, but we hope it's good nonetheless. I will just briefly walk you through our different levels of schooling. Vasilis is in 10th grade and I am in 9th grade. I have attended 4 private schools and 1 public school, while Vasilis has attended 1 of each. To find an answer to our question, we decided to create a survey. It consisted of 3 very simple questions asking what type of schooling you've attended, where you think the 2 types of schooling differ the most, and what you think the greatest misconception about the type of school you attended is. The options we gave for where our respondents found the most differences were facilities, which account for playgrounds, bathrooms, books, and the like, educational methods, which is how you're taught, bullying tolerance, which is how well the school responded to issues regarding bullying, and focus, which asks if the priority in your school was social or educational. We also gave an other option in case someone had a different opinion on the biggest difference. We got 33 responses, of which 8 attended public school, 10 attended private school, and 15 did both. This is a graphic of our survey responses, which we will return to later in our conclusion section. From the 4 responses of each other, we found a difference in focus on postgraduate education, what is expected of you as a student, and how much money the school receives from the government. While we got a varied array of responses in regards to the biggest misconception about the schooling our respondents received, there was a very unanimous tone in regards to private schools. Everyone thought, or at least perceived that other people thought, that private schools catered exclusively to the rich and snobby. We did not find it surprising that people thought this, but we were a bit taken back with how many responses mentioned this. Other notable themes were perceived strictness and perception of students' social or economic class. Please do note that we had to leave out a few replies that were unintelligible or worded. To sum it up, what we found from our survey was that of 33 respondents, 8 attended public schooling, 10 had an exclusively private education, and 15 did both. 45.5% of respondents believed that the biggest difference between public and private schooling was the educational methods. 18 responses of the 33 we received mentioned that private educations are perceived as only for rich and snobby kids. Next, we will evaluate the cultural differences in our survey. We noticed a change in the replies once one of our teachers shared our survey on her Facebook page. We got more responses from Americans who are not school-aged like ourselves. These responses focused more on class prejudice towards public schools, a few bringing up perceived safety differences, for example. Meanwhile, responses from Danish school-aged survey takers mentioned mostly a perception of wealth in private kids. Older respondents also kept it less personal, speaking more of schools as an institution without commenting on children attending. This is seen in replies such as the one saying that public schools are dangerous and private schools are safe, which we received after our teacher shared the survey. In regards to cultural differences, responses from Americans class prejudice towards public schools, while Danish respondents mostly mentioned assumptions about private school children being rich. This is probably connected to the generational difference where our American or respondents, the ones from our teacher's Facebook page, probably attended public school. Another thing to note is that the respondents coming from a teacher's Facebook page also tended to make it more clear in their responses which type of schooling they attended. The survey was anonymous, so we did not track responses in this manner. In our personal experiences, a lot of these misconceptions are really situational. Vasilis and I had widely different experiences of either school system. Neither of us are wealthy, and while I had a particularly bad experience in an underfunded, badly Danish public school, Vasilis thrived in Greek public school. While some of the responses may be based on outdated stereotypes, some do in fact have backing. Here in Denmark, especially funding for public schools has majorly changed over the last 2 decades. A study done by the OECD in 2001 showed that Denmark's public schools used almost double the amount of money per student than the average, $6.6 in comparison to an average of 3.8, without seemingly seeing any notable academic improvements. This is explained in an article on Folkeskolen.dk, which is a teacher's magazine, as being due to Denmark's focus on teaching other skills than academic ones in their classes. However, a staggering statistic shows that from 2015 to 2019, public school funding has been cut by 1.2 billion Danish kroner. However, private schooling institutions experienced a boost in public funding by 355 million Danish kroner a year. An article commenting on this states as follows: public school should be the option that all social classes can choose, because we really shouldn't end up in a place where those who can afford it are ensured a better education than those who can't. This quote is translated, but it makes an excellent point. While perception is that private schools provide a better education, meaning you have to pay to succeed, it isn't like that yet. It has been in the past, but it does not have to be again. However, if Denmark continues to pool all its resources in the private schools, eventually it will become a rich, snobby environment where people pay to be better than those who can't. They should be two equal options with positives and negatives, not the good one and the bad one. In late 2019, after the elections in Denmark, private schools actually took a staggering hit. The new government proposed cutting their public funding down harshly, taking away around 3,000 Danish kroner per student annually. This is a step in the wrong direction. The leader of Danish Friskole, another type of private school, stated the following: there are families who are economically unfortunate who don't think they have the money to send their kids to a local private school. We do not want to be the school for the children of the privileged. We would like to be a school that appeals to all. We cannot keep putting these schooling types against each other. We can't have an environment where private school is truly only for the rich and snobby, but cutting budgets for both types of schooling will end up doing that. Vasilis and I are done in private schooling at the end of the year, but we still care. We want all forms of schooling to be accessible, not just one or the other.